Hello there, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me on this workshop. Really hope everyone's having a great day. I'm just trying to make sure I have everything set up. Okay. All right, so today's workshop Wednesday. I really like doing these, and it's only once a month. I may change that, but today is a very topic that's really near and dear to my heart, and it's actually a little bit ironic or synchronous, depending on which way you want to look at it, because it's also something that I'm going through right now. So hopefully the tips and the information I give you today will be helpful in helping you kind of move through any episodes that you're going to be going through. Now, the title of this, let me just kind of, there we go. I'm just trying to find a spot where it's like, there we go. Okay, so the title of this workshop is How to Use Self-Care to Move Your Way Through an Episode of Depression or Anxiety. Now, first thing right off the bat that I want to clarify is what an episode is. Because it's different for everybody. Everybody who has experienced any sort of mental dis-ease understands that it manifests differently for everybody. But for some people, it will be just this utter feeling of being very stressed out. For me, it can alternate. I can feel a little bit that way. I know some of my clients feel that way. Sometimes it'll be if you are a recovering addict, it will be this intense need to go back to whatever you are off of, like whatever substance you're off of. So it can also manifest that way. Other times you'll just be really irritable and cranky and you won't know why. Also something I'm guilty of. Sometimes it'll be really like having a hard time getting out of bed, not being motivated, not being able to show up for your responsibilities, even showing up for things you like to do. It can be really hard. And the reason I call it an episode versus just a long-standing illness or something like that is because for the most part, even in like with my history, for example, when I was at my worst and I was depressed for just long periods of time, there were breaks. It wasn't like a constant, state of depression or anxiety. But the majority of the time I would be, and it was always kind of there in the back of my mind that I'm like, oh, I'm still kind of worrying about things that don't need to worry about, or I'm just like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do anything. That is applicable. That happens. But there are like certain breaks. But as you start your journey to transform these diseases into who you are, because that's really what these conditions are trying to tell you, is that there is somewhere where you are not being authentic to who you are. There is something that you are preventing yourself from doing because you either think you can't do it, you're not allowed to do it, or any combination thereof. It could be any number of things, really. But it really just comes down to you are somehow not being true to who you are. And this is my perspective on it. This is how I teach it, because from what I have learned for myself and for my clients is that there is this disconnect. When you have a mental dis-ease, and I don't like calling it mental illness because that has the stigma to that is that not so much that people don't talk about it, but there's an attachment to that diagnosis. Even if you're not officially diagnosed, there's an attachment to what that word means, whether that's depression or anxiety or PTSD or addiction or codependence, any of that. There's an attachment to that word that we tend to identify with. And my whole mission is to create sever that connection. It's because you are not a diagnosis. You are not a disease. You are not an illness. So I call it dis-ease because when you are experiencing any of the symptoms that go with those labels, you are somehow out of sync with what you're supposed to be. All right. So you can, let me just make sure I'm not getting any questions. Let me go over here. All right. So, so that's kind of like the beginnings of just what an episode is. Now, when you're in recovery and you are moving your way through transforming these diseases into your authentic self, so you can actually show up for your life and live an extraordinary life. That's really kind of the point of being on this planet. Otherwise, why are we here? When you're on the road to recovery, you're going to have more good days and bad days, but that does not mean that you're going to be free of the bad days. And that's a very important concept to understand. Because you have an episode does not mean you failed. By no means is that true. You're going to have episodes because as you grow and as you kind of peel the onion as to what's going on, you're going to come up against, either issues from your childhood or just growing pains, really. And every time you stretch, you're going to have to contract a little bit. And this is kind of like I use this exercise analogy a lot, which is whenever you work out, you're going to be sore. If you're doing it right, you're going to be sore. But your real growth happens in those recovery phases. And that's really what an episode is. It's your recovery phase. It's like you've stretched yourself, you've done something that you haven't done, you've shown up for your life a little bit. And as a result, you may have to kind of sit back and retract a little bit to meet yourself, like kind of let yourself grow into that new comfort zone, so that where you stretched before that was outside of your comfort zone becomes then part of your comfort zone. Then you can kind of continue expanding that as you move forward in your journey. So I hope that makes some sense. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and I will answer them at the end. But for now, okay, so how are we using self-care to get out of this? First of all, you're not getting out of it. You're going through it. That's the first thing I want to kind of clarify right off the top as well, along with defining what an episode is. You cannot, first, I don't want you to be scared or fearful of having an episode. It's a good thing. Again, always the positivity thing does not come easily to those of us who have dealt with a mental disease. But when you have to look at what you traditionally might consider a kind of backwards movement, you have to consider it as a look at the positive. And I know that's hard, especially if you're like in the deep mired in it and you have never known what happy is. And I remember this very clearly, actually, before I really kind of flipped the switch on my own recovery, which is you're just like, I don't want to hear about being positive. It's just not something that I can manage right now. It's just something that doesn't seem possible. How can I possibly be positive when I feel like my world is falling apart, when I feel like I'm falling apart? Allow yourself to fall apart, because you can't build yourself back up until you are broken. And breaking apart is not a bad thing. This is kind of like a seed, we're going to go back to more analogies, and there's going to be a lot of them I'm going to throw at you. So please, if you have questions, pop them in, and that way I can go back and I'll take breaks and then kind of make sure that we are up to date on everything. But this is kind of like the seed analogy, which is a seed starts off as a whole piece, but in order to grow the plant out of it, whether it's a tree or if it's a flower or if it's any, vegetable or anything like that, the seed has to crack open in order for something more to come out of it. So allow yourself the space when you are in one of these episodes to kind of come back to yourself, maybe even disconnect from a lot of things. And usually that's social media. We're going to discuss that when we move forward into the 5 pillars of self-care. But allow yourself the space to break down. And like I said, I'm going through this right now with all the lunar energy and everything that happened at the end of last week, and some of my own personal growth and kind of energy clearings that I've been doing. There's today's one of those days where I've just been really just in the middle of it. And my instinct, I'll probably talk about this on another workshop, but my instinct is to push through it and just kind of distract myself from it so that hopefully it'll just go away. but really that doesn't serve me or the people that I'm serving. You have to kind of get in the middle of it, allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling. That's really important, that you are allowed, you have permission to break down, because you can't build yourself back up until you allow yourself to do that. All right, so now that we have that covered, excuse me, I'm going to be drinking a lot of water through this one. I'm very dehydrated today. Like I said, I've been working through a lot of things, so excuse me. All right, so first, now that we've kind of covered what an episode is and why they exist and all that fun stuff, next is the 5 pillars of self-care. This is something I created, kind of like, this is like the 5 things that I like to hit. They're more nuanced than this, but these are like the 5 major categories of self-care. It's nutrition, movement, supplements, mindset, and connection. Now, each one of these are nuanced. Like I said, you can kind of expand on each of them and they can become their own kind of big thing. But I kind of consolidated into these because, again, everybody's entry point to healing is different, but we're all going to come through it through one of these. That's kind of what I learned through my own life, through my own recovery, and also my clients, and talking to a whole bunch of people who haven't necessarily been my clients, but who I just talk to and connect with as to their journeys. We all come to recovery from one of these 5 places. Wherever you start is perfectly fine. There's no right way to start. I personally started with nutrition and worked my way through there. Some people start through movement. Some people start through connection. It's different for everybody. But you're going to be with one of these 5 places. So how to use these pillars of self-care to help you move through an episode. Okay, we're going to start off with nutrition. And if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes just to make sure I cover everything, because there is a lot of stuff that I can talk about, and I want to make sure I cover everything, but it's still kind of makes sense because I can go off on tangents. But nutrition, I'm going to start off with nutrition because it happens to be my favorite one. And again, it's where I entered my journey in. But when you are moving through an episode, and nutritionally, it's actually going to be really important to give your body the nutrients it needs to start kind of at least bringing your reserves up. Because what happens when you're going through an episode is that you are stressed out. So your reserves of your minerals and your vitamins and the protein in your body, the fat use, everything kind of gets really drastically used up to support your body's organs. Especially when it comes to your adrenals and your brain. Definitely some heart stuff going on there too. And your intestines. Again, the brain-gut connection is very, very powerful here. So your gut's going to be kind of moving through things a lot quickly. Some people have experienced either constipation or diarrhea when they are going through an intense episode. That's usually a stress reaction. Again, this is a stressful period, but it's a good kind of stress if you know how to do it right. If you know how to work through it in a way that aligns with you. And again, these pillars are very, they can get very personalized. So what the recommendations I give may not necessarily be what you know what works for you, but if you know what works for you, insert your said recommendations to where I'm giving out mine. Let me just make sure nothing else is coming through. Okay. All right. So nutrition. I actually posted this on my Facebook page a few days ago, but kind of like your self-care first aid kit about what to do when you're in the middle of it, and kind of just, quick things that you can eat, move, and do self-care wise that can move you through. So I'm going to expand on that a little bit. But with nutrition, let's kind of back up a little bit. With nutrition, you want to make sure you're getting in a few things during this period, during these episodes. You need to make sure that you're getting enough minerals. You're going to need a lot of magnesium. Your magnesium is going to get used up. You're going to need a lot of zinc. Your zinc's going to get used up during these periods. And they're the first things to get used in a stressful episode, in any stress reaction, but particularly during these. So salt's going to be really important. the salt that I always recommend, because it's the most balanced salt you can find, is Himalayan pink salt. So that's something that you want to add on to your food, maybe more than you normally would. You may even notice cravings for salty things. Try, again, when cravings show up, right there is it should just go off in your head. Okay, I'm stressed out right now. It may not be a full-blown episode. And that could actually be a good thing, because if you know right away, and this is, again, why I came through with food, I have a history of binge eating and food addiction. So for me, food was kind of like the predominant thing in my life that kind of took over everything. And I was convinced that my depression was coming from the fact that I was heavy. But once I kind of just learned how to eat healthfully, the weight was no longer an issue, and my mental health was vastly improved, mainly because I got the nutrients I needed that I wasn't getting from my previous diet. So first things, you're most likely will notice either an increase for sweet things and salty things. Those are just common stress cravings. It's just the way your body's designed to do. That's just what your adrenals will ask for when they are being taxed. And pink salt is a great helper for your adrenals during this time. There's a truckload of magnesium in it, more so than any other salt that's on the planet right now, unless they've come up with a new one, but I haven't seen anything about that yet. And it has less sodium than other salts. So if you are looking to watch your sodium, it's a good salt to have, because you're going to get more of the magnesium than you would in other salts, and less sodium than other salts. But you still do need sodium during this time. Sodium will get used. Sodium still is important. And I kind of covered this last week when I was going over minerals in the group. So if you have any questions, go back to those posts and read those. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in. But you're going to need salt. So the first thing nutrition-wise is to making sure you have some pink salt that you're putting on your food. Next, you're going to want to make sure that you're getting enough protein. Now, normally you don't usually have to worry about this, but because we all do tend to eat enough protein. But I would actually suggest to bump it up more than you normally would, and I'm actually going to suggest certain proteins to aim for, and I'll tell you why. Aim for more fatty fish, so salmon, mackerel, sardines, anchovies. The fatty fish, small fatty fish, are going to be particularly helpful, not just for the protein source, although they are great protein sources. And again, you're welcome to use any protein that you're comfortable with. If you are vegan or vegetarian, find the protein sources that work for you there. Tofu can work really well. Miso can be really good. But why I recommend the fatty fish in particular is not only are you getting a really great protein source that's usually really easy for the body to assimilate with, but you're also getting the next really important thing that you want to get from your nutrition is really heavy doses of vitamin D, and a lot of those, and omega-3 and omega-6s, fats. Your brain is mostly fat, all right, and it's calming. So when you take in the good quality fats and you eat those, it actually creates a calming effect on your brain, because it's getting its major structural component in droves. And on top of that, omega-3s are anti-inflammatories. Inflammation, again, when you're stressed out, inflammation is coming hand in hand. I know this is going to sound really sciencey. Just bear with me a little bit. When you're going through an episode, you are stressed out. As a result of that stress, you are inflamed. That is the nature of things. That is how the body works. You want to combat that inflammation with as much anti-inflammatories and antioxidants as you can. It will help expedite your own processing of everything that's going on, and kind of keep your body prevent your body from going from full blown out stressed out mode, which is a lot harder to come back from. You can obviously come back from it. As long as you are breathing and alive, you are able to come back from anything. But you want to prevent yourself from going too far off and kind of mitigating the damage that an episode is going to do. And that's where the omega-3s and 6s are really, really important. Definitely the omega-3s. 6s we can get everywhere. So that's where the fatty fish comes in. Really great protein source and a really good anti-inflammatory fat source. Again, really good for just the entire processing and giving your body the nutrients that it needs during this period to help support you in your journey of getting through an episode, any episode. Dark and leafy green. Again, these are they're chock full of antioxidants, again, for the inflammation. And they have those minerals that are going to be in the salt as well, but you can never have enough of those. So the dark leafy greens will give you the antioxidants to help with the inflammation. That's going to happen. That's just the way that it works. And also all the minerals that are going to be depleted are going to be in those greens. So those are also really important to have. Another thing that I've mentioned over once or twice, and I kind of want to clarify this because it can get misconstrued a little bit, and I don't want that to be. I don't want to. It's just kind of like a fine line as a health coach, but. I do mention dark chocolate. I know on this post that I mentioned dark chocolate at least 60%. The reason I mentioned it is you're going to crave something sweet, and it's perfectly fine to have it. I just don't want you gorging on it, and that's the only thing you're eating. Again, you want to have your balanced meals, but dark chocolate is a great option. It's also a great magnesium source. Again, something that tastes good will satisfy the sweet cravings that you may experience during an episode, and also at the same time, kind of give you a dose of magnesium that's going to, again, help support your body while you're going through this. Another one that is going to be really great to help, again, support your body while you are working your way through an episode is bone broth. This goes back to the brain-gut connection and the protein and the fat. All of that kind of comes together with the bone broth. That stuff is just liquid gold. And there's almost nothing I think that it can't fix, but it is going to be really important to kind of support your gut and your gut lining. Again, the inflammation that's going to come as a result is going to start creating some holes in your gut. It may not be full-blown leaky gut, but there will be some holes. And again, you want to give your body as much raw material as it can get to create and help help fix any inflammation, any damage the inflammation is going to cause, and bone broth is great for that. All right, avocados, this goes back to the fat and the minerals and vitamins. Avocados is a superfood. It's like the most common superfood that everybody, most people like. I'll say that. Most people like, if you're not allergic to it, if you just don't like the taste of it, for the most part, everybody likes. It's got a lot of good fats that is going to, again, soothe your brain and soothe your gut. It's got all the minerals and the vitamins that you could possibly need. Eggs are another one. It's with the yolk, preferably pastured eggs. Please, please, if you can find pastured eggs, they're getting more and more popular now to be able to find them. Pastured eggs, though, again, it's a complete food, and you want to make sure that you're getting as much of that as possible. The other thing is trying to make sure that you're getting enough, most fruits, but actually what I'm going to specifically say is actually berries, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. And the reason for those, again, is the antioxidants that they have going to help with the inflammation. They're actually really good sources of vitamin C. Vitamin C is one of those vitamins that gets used up in stressful situations, mainly because it's water soluble. And it's also something it's also an antioxidant that you need to kind of, again, like everything else, consistently give yourself up. But because it's water soluble, it's going to get used up even faster, especially during a stressful time. Excuse me. So that's going to be one more recommendation. So kind of to go through that again, it was fatty fish. So sardines, mackerel, salmon, anchovies, dark and leafy greens for, they're just great foods. Pink salt for your minerals. And again, you may be craving salty things. You want to just salt your food a little bit heavier before you start going for like potato chips. Bone broth for your gut, which then again gives a signal to your brain that things are kind of being handled. Avocados, because they are just great foods. And pastured eggs, berries, and for a treat in this kind of time, and to give yourself some comfort and be like, you're not completely like dark chocolate, just to give yourself some good, like give yourself some magnesium along with a treat for the sweetness, for the sweet cravings that you may or may not experience during this time. All right, movement is the next pillar. Now, when you, everybody's movement requirements are different. All right. I kind of alternate between high intensity workouts to where with weights and high intensity cardio. I don't do steady state cardio really ever. I just don't like it. But sometimes that might happen, but really I haven't done that in years. But for me, I usually alternate between yoga and high intensity workouts with weights. You have to, this is where the personalization comes in. You have to know yourself really well in this particular state. Do not go by what people tell you you should be working out as. I usually recommend during an episode to do yoga, because yoga is not only a good workout, which will help with the endorphins and kind of, getting your mood up a little bit. But it also really helps working through the emotions. I have cried more than 1 million times while I've been doing yoga. And again, your body houses all of your emotions. So whatever you're going through, especially during an episode, you can feel it in your body. And it's the most gentle way and most compassionate way of working through that is going to be through yoga. You can do a hatha yoga class, you can do a vinyasa one, whichever one you feel like doing, or you can just do what I do sometimes, which is like a 15-minute, what really qualifies as a warm-up. And it's just a really light stretching, but it's just enough that it kind of opens up my body a little bit and allows me to kind of process whatever is coming up when I do that. I always recommend yoga, but find a movement source that helps you process. So for everybody, that's different. So some people might be going for a run. Do not do 15-mile runs. Do not do 10-mile runs. That's just not healthy. If running helps you, do running. If that's, that's a steady state cardio thing. It's not my jam, but if it's yours, go for it. If you want to go do a kickboxing class because you just want to pound the shit out of something, go do that. But movement of some sort. And believe me, I understand it's probably the last thing you want to do. I get it. I understand that you don't want to do that. Do it anyway. Again, this is where you have to kind of find the line between what you need to do for your body versus what you want to do. And what you want to do when you're in the middle of an episode, and if you guys are anything like me, and I know I'm not the only one who goes through this, but usually when you're in an episode, you want to sit in bed, maybe binge watch Netflix, eat all the things that are not good for you, and that will just exacerbate the situation. You are open to doing all of those. What I suggest first is get this self-care in. So get the meals in. If you still want to go binge eat potato chips, go right ahead. But get your greens and your fish in first. That's all I'm saying. The chips will still be there. They're still available to you, but at least get the nutrients in first before you go in for the junk, because again, you don't want to live on junk, and you do want to give your body the support that it needs. And it may not be what you want to eat at the time, but think of it as medicine. And that's really what self-care is. In these periods, it is medicine. Instead of having to go take a pill or being on a cocktail of pills on this sort of thing, instead of taking a Xanax, go and work out. You may or may not feel as better as a Xanax may feel you, but feel free to go and do the things that you want to do, which may be like staying in bed all day and watching Netflix or just reading a book or whatever. That's fine. Feel free to do those, but get this medicine in first. This is the real medicine that your body needs. Get this in first. So we've done nutrition and movement. Next one is, I'm actually going to do the mindset and connection. I'm going to do at the end because they're a little bit more complex. I'm going to hit the supplements first. And the supplements kind of ties in with the food, but again, we're talking about like kind of boosting all of your supplies, your reservoirs, and within your body of all the nutrients that you need. So I'm going to give you a handful of supplements that I recommend during one of these episodes, and feel free to use them in whichever way kind of works for you. But these are the ones I usually recommend. A vitamin C supplement. You want to look for a either long release one or at least something that has at least 1,000 milligrams of it, because again, it gets used up really easily. Vitamin D, which I really hope everybody's taking every day anyway, but vitamin D is going to be very necessary. A vitamin B complex or a vitamin B12, B6 supplement. You usually don't find B6 and B12 together unless it's part of a B complex, which is why just go for the B complex. You're going to need all of those anyway. But if you're in a pinch and you can only get one and the B complex is too expensive, I would definitely go with the B12 at the very least. A mineral supplement. So you can, some people take just magnesium and just zinc as two separate supplements. I've done that. I actually find it better when I take a combo pill, and then I add in extra magnesium through Calm. Like if you've ever heard of the powder Calm supplement, it's a magnesium supplement that you just dissolve in water. I supplement with that along with a magnesium zinc calcium supplement that works out really well. Again, it's just consistent support, and I'll just add in more of the Calm when I need more Calm. And then an adaptogen. So adaptogen examples are like rhodiola, ginseng, ashwagandha. There's a whole slew of them. Ashwagandha works really well for me, but if you are allergic to nightshades, that's not going to be a good example for you. That's not going to be a good option for you. But if you are looking for a adaptogen, you want to look up either adaptogens. You can search for adaptogens on Amazon or any supplement company that you may be using, or a stress support supplement. A stress support supplement is going to have a mix of a whole bunch of adaptogens. So make sure you check the ingredients, and feel free to try a bunch of them because each one kind of works differently with each person's biochemistry. And you may need certain ones during certain type of periods and then other ones during certain episodes. So it's kind of like, it can become very confusing, but find a stress support or adaptogen supplement that works for you. And this is, again, gets very personalized. So if you have questions about it, feel free to pop them in and I'll answer them, because that's something that kind of happens person to person, is very personalized. But stress support supplements as a whole, I know I personally like Real Food Vitamins, rfvitamins.com. I love the stuff that's on that site. There is a few stress supports on there, and they actually also include heavy doses of magnesium along with several adaptogens within one supplement. So it's something good to have, not only for when you're going through an episode, but just if you're, if you have something really stressful coming up and you want to do it preventatively, it's a really good option. So just to recap: vitamin C, vitamin D, a B complex or B12, a stress support, and and a mineral, and a magnesium and zinc supplement, or at least just a magnesium supplement. Again, we're going to go back to zinc is also really important for a lot of us. But so I prefer if you could find a magnesium zinc combo, which are actually readily available. But at least the magnesium part, something like Calm, the powder, which is also really easy to find and actually very affordable as well, but a mineral compound. Okay, next is going to be mindset. Mindset is one of those pillars that it kind of gets people into a tizzy, and I think mindset is a word that's very overused right now. I think not that it's invalidating the concept, but I just think that everybody, mindset kind of gets overused, and most people don't understand exactly what you're trying to do there. The mindset work behind an episode is really like the toughest thing to do, because that's where you really have to sit with the feelings that you are experiencing. And most of them, if you're experiencing depression or anxiety during one of these episodes, is not going to be a fun feeling. It's just not. Let's just call a spade, and it's just not going to be a fun time. But it is you. It's so necessary, because if you don't actually sit down and figure out what it is that you're feeling and why you're feeling it and how you can change it so that you can actually move forward and grow from this experience, you're just going to keep repeating it. You'll keep coming back to the same thing. So we don't want to keep repeating a pattern. We've already lived like that. And the whole point of the mindset work is to really kind of sit down and figure out, why am I feeling like this? What triggered me? Some people don't like the word trigger. I don't care. I like it because it's something that when you get triggered, that is a mirror. That is right there in front of you, is a mirror to what is going on within you. And if you are triggered into an episode, or if while you're in an episode you feel triggered, that is a great growth opportunity. It's a great opportunity to get some mindset work in and figure out, why is this triggering me? What is it within me that this is highlighting? There's a couple of components. Mindset work is very vast, all right? And there are a bunch of tools that I'm going to actually share with you in a second that can work. But the first thing is to understand the emotional component, and then understand once you have the emotional component down, meaning understanding why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. Was it a trigger that triggered you? Was it a series of events that got you to this place? Are there self-limiting beliefs that have been, again, triggered to get you into this space? That's the emotional work. And tools that you can use to help you with the emotional work. EFT, tapping, fantastic. Really, really quick way to at least lower your body's emotional response to whatever it is that's creating the emotional response. So it can actually drastically reduce your stress within 5 minutes, if not less, depending on how strong it is. But tapping is a great tool. Journaling is a great tool. Journaling would probably be the first thing I would tell you to do before the tapping, because you need to know what it is that you want to tap on. So let's track back a little bit. When you're doing the emotional work, and this is so important, this really is the core of why, of really kind of understanding these episodes and having less and less of them as you move forward in your journey, but this is the crux of it. And the mindset work, the emotional mindset work, is really kind of going through all those thoughts of anxiety, all the depression thoughts that are going through your head that are creating this feelings of just ickiness within you, or the stress within you, the worry within you. Journal it out. Now, I'm actually somebody who's very resistant to journaling, but there are times when this stuff is just pouring out of you and you just need to get it onto a page. Now, pen to paper is the best option. You can type it out. You can talk it out. I've done all three, and I've done all three at the same time. Sometimes I will video myself just to talk it out, because sometimes I'm somebody who processes out loud. So if I'm writing, sometimes what I usually end up coming about, and this is also like, you have to realize that when you are in an episode, your ego is on overdrive. So there are things that your ego doesn't want to confront. And that's why these tools become really, really important, is because we need to move our ego out of the way. And the journaling, what happens with me, and this may happen with you too, is that sometimes the whole going from my brain to my hand and out onto a paper, or even typing it out, there's just like this disconnect. I'll censor myself, or I'll erase things, or I just can't get the thought out in the words that I make. It's not true to what's going on in my head. So that's why I like to talk into video. Sometimes I'll do it on my phone, I'll do it on my computer, depending on, or sometimes I'll just talk out loud to nobody, and or to myself. It's kind of like self-therapy is what I do. And that works out really well for me, because if I can hear what I'm saying, then like all the work that I've done in the reprogramming I have done of my mind will be like, okay, that just sounds stupid. And that actually in and of itself can be very relieving, and can actually move me forward and be like, oh, I just needed to get this out. And that's why therapy is actually really, really helpful for a lot of people, because sometimes you just do need to get it out of you. either onto an objective person or in this case, a machine. But find a method of journaling that works for you. It could be video, it could be typing it out, it could be writing. But I personally believe that writing, pen to paper, creating that connection between your brain and your hand, and talking it out are probably the two most effective ones. But typing can work as well. But I would kind of keep that as like a third, fourth option. So that's going to be one of the mindset tools when it comes to the emotional work. Then once you've journaled out whatever it is that's coming up, then you can move on to tapping. Now, again, this is something that I teach my clients, and it's something that usually works for everybody because I'm looking for the most efficient tools. I want to efficiently kind of work through whatever's going on and kind of move on with my day. Or at least not spend a week or a month in this, because I've done that too, and that is not fun. But you want to kind of move through it efficiently but effectively, and that's kind of the whole point. So once you've journaled out everything that's going through your head, then you can move on to tapping to see which ones, like what's the most emotionally charged portion of it, like what's making you want to cry, what's making you upset, what's making you angry when you write this stuff out, or you're talking it out. And once you've gotten that down, tap on it. And if you don't know what tapping is, I suggest checking out, there's a bunch of tools on YouTube. Brad Yates is a great option. Margaret Lynch is a great option. And if you're in Facebook groups, you can also check out my friend Amy McNally. She is the tapping queen. She's the one who taught me how to tap. She's fantastic. She's got a great videos. Her Facebook group is Live the Life You Desire. So you can look that up and go through her stuff. It's just absolutely fantastic. But there's so many tools. You can definitely just go on YouTube and kind of scroll through there. And so you can, that's like once you've kind of journaled out everything that's going on, you move on to tapping. And that what the tapping will do is that it will lower your emotional response to the negativity that's going on. And then you can go back in and reinforce it with positive. So once you've kind of like written out all what you're feeling, and if you are, and most people I know that the most of my clients that I work with and most of the people who are attracted to what I do are smart enough to know what their blocks are when they do these exercises. When you go through that, then you can, if you see what blocks are coming up, you tap on those blocks. Or you tap on those emotions that are like just coming up and it's choking you up and you just can't breathe because of it. You want to get that emotional response down. You want to lower that stress response so your body can actually start to move through it, because it's not going to be able to if it's stressed out about it. And what tapping will do when you hit on those meridian points, your body's going to like start to lower its stress response to a set emotion, to a set of circumstances or thoughts that you're going through, that you're experiencing. And that's going to at least get you a clear head and be able to think clearly about what is going on and how can I move forward with this. That's when you can find the inspiration, or, what a lot of people have called divine downloads, to know what your next step is. Like, what am I supposed to do next? You have to get out of the emotional response to whatever is going on to be able to know what your next step is. You have to be calm in order to hear your intuition, and we're going to go into that. That's going to be the last pillar. But you want to really lower that emotional response to be able to hear what your next step is from within yourself. And that's like, again, this is kind of a tangent, but important to understand that there is nobody who you have to learn how to trust yourself to be able to move through these episodes. And this just takes practice. But the answers that you need are within you. Like, even as a coach, for me, I don't want clients to rely on me to give them answers. I want them to learn that they have the answers within you, and I'm here to facilitate that process. For you to learn how to trust yourself, I'm here to help you with that. But I'm not here to give you the answers. I can give you insight. But my answers are going to be for me. My answers may not necessarily be right for you. Granted, I'm much more intuitive and have learned how to and I'm empathic in a large sense, so I can kind of understand what you may need. But my whole point of my coaching is to get you to understand that you have your answers. They're already within you. So in order to be able to get those answers and to actually understand what your next steps are, you have to lower your emotional response, and especially the negative emotions. And tapping is a great way to do that. So once you've journaled out everything and then you've tapped on the stuff, on the negative stuff, and then you can also take those negative thoughts that you've written out and create a positive affirmation from them. And then once you've tapped out the negativity, you can tap on the positivity and kind of replace all that. After you've done all that, the next step is meditation. Now, you may or may not be one of those people that understands how to meditate. There is no how. The thing with meditation, and this is, again, one of those like guiding principles that I try to teach my clients, is that the thing with meditation is learning how to detach from the thoughts in your head. Meaning, instead of being the one thinking the thoughts, you want to be the observer of the thoughts. And this can be a little bit tricky to understand. So if you have any questions, again, post them in the comments and I can answer them. But the meditation will help you kind of reinforce what you just did with the journaling and the EFT, which is detach from anything else that is coming up. And also give you the space to hear what your next step is. And this happens all the time, which is like when you, and I think the most famous person for this is Oprah, when she's like, if I need an answer to a question, if I need to know what I need to do next, I just sit in silence. And that's really what it is. It's just find a quiet place and space to listen to what's next for you. And that's really the point of meditation. The other half of meditation is also, you can do a guided meditation or a meditative clearing, an energy clearing. And this is much more on the woo side, but still very helpful. And it's something that has worked wonders for me, which is finding either on YouTube, again, great resource for this, is doing an energy clearing meditation, which is, it's a guided meditation that will kind of lead you through getting you grounded and then clearing out all your chakras. And I'm going to have to do another video on that to kind of clearly explain what that means if you don't know what that is. But that's also a two-parter. So that's part of the mindset work, is understanding this is all emotional work. All right. I know this is a lot. That's why this is a really long workshop, but this is how you move through an episode. There's a lot of work involved because these are opportunities for growth. And understanding, where it is that you need to step up into. Because, again, these episodes don't come out of the blue. They come out when, you've stretched out of your comfort zone and you need to kind of contract a little bit and understand what's going on. And also, it's also an understanding, and there are also sometimes episodes, these episodes occur because you need to step into something bigger than where you have been. And that's scary. And that's something that your brain, and again, these episodes are always your ego in overdrive. Your ego is just like, nope, not going to do it. I'm very happy here. I don't want to grow anymore. And it's not safe out there. And all this stuff will start happening. And it's important to understand what is happening so that each time, and you will have, these episodes will come up. I'm sorry. And I'm not sorry to say that, because these are opportunities for growth. And if they don't ever happen again, you are not doing anything challenging with your life. Plain and simple. These episodes are not bad things, but you do have to use them to your advantage. And this is how you do that. And again, you can go back to Netflix, binge watching Netflix or binge eating crap food. You're welcome to do all that, but do this stuff first. And really, I know it sounds like I'm telling you to do a lot. And I'm really not telling you to do anything. These are just tips. And feel free to use whichever ones you think work best for you. It may not be everything, but it's about putting yourself first. And that's like the biggest thing about an episode, is to connect back to yourself and give yourself care. Like, take care of yourself, really. Like, learn, like, this is like true loving. Like, you have to treat yourself like a child who's sick. And you wouldn't just leave that child with like nothing. while they're like hacking up a lung or like throwing up or something. And this is like the same thing for you, only this is like your brain doing that. And with mental disease and mental health, it's just such more complex than any other illness. It just is, because this is the essence of who you are, and this is reprogramming yourself. So when you are in an episode, you have a divine opportunity. It really is divine. It is like manna from heaven for you to reprogram what's going on. And that's a great opportunity that you should not waste. So that's why I'm giving you all this. But the emotional work, just to recap, journal out, whether that's through video, writing it down, or typing it out, whichever one works for you. But like I said, video and typing are usually, video and writing are the most effective ones, depending on your personality type, or both. Understanding what is going on in your head and getting it out on a piece of paper or on video so you can actually hear it and see it. Then you tap out the negativity and tap in the positivity. So whatever is the negative that you're experiencing, create a positive for that, the positive flip side for that, and then tap on the negative and then reinforce it with the positive. Then the last part is the meditation. Is meditating in silence or some light music to just see what your next steps are, and also doing, if you choose to, a meditative clearing, energetic clearing of your chakras, so that you can understand that you are safe to go through this. Because most likely it's going to be a root chakra that's expanding, and again, I'm going to have to do a whole separate video on that one, but really important. Okay. The other half of mindset work is boundaries. Another reason, another major reason, other than like emotional growth, that other than emotional growth, another reason a lot of us will experience an episode of depression or anxiety is boundaries, boundary violations, or boundary setting that is out of your comfort zone.